The story begins with a teenage boy named Kagami, who was delivering divorce papers to his father. His father, a successful bank manager, had been distant from the family due to his busy schedule, causing the loss of love between them. After receiving the papers, Kagami's father rushed to invite him to dinner, but Kagami declined. Eventually, an incident occurred where Kagami's father sacrificed his life to save his son from being hit by a car. Both of them were immediately taken to the hospital. When Kagami woke up, he felt relieved to see his father was okay. However, he was puzzled as to why his father appeared to be glowing. It turned out that the figure in front of him was his father's spirit. At that moment, the spirit of his father asked Kagami for permission to borrow his body for 49 days because there was something important he needed to do before departing from this world. Their spirits merged, and his father's original form was declared dead. The next day, Kagami, now with his father's soul, prepared to go to school. His father realized he didn't know much about his son's life, like Kagami spending more time at home than at school. He was unaware that his eldest child was pregnant without a husband. At the bus stop, Kagami's friend Satoshi handed him an envelope, asking for 2,000 yen. As the bus arrived, rowdy teenage thugs boarded. Seeing a mother with her baby, Kagami tried to intervene and convinced one thug to give up his seat for her. Upon arriving in class, his friends were surprised to see Kagami suddenly greet them with enthusiasm. It became clear that father and son had opposite personalities. During break, Kagami preferred to be on the school roof. Suddenly, he saw a girl with glasses about to do something unthinkable. Rushing to stop her, Kagami realized she only wanted to change her wet uniform, so he turned away. The girl Sachi was often bullied by her classmates, but she still faced each day with enthusiasm. Kagami and Sachi had known each other since childhood because their fathers were friends. Sachi had heard that Kagami's father was a smart and popular student at their school. At that moment, Sachi felt offended hearing Kagami advising her, as Kagami himself wasn't much different from her. Being a lonely loser without friends, he couldn't believe that his son had such a character. When Kagami returned from school, he wondered why his mother hadn't cried since his father's death. This disappointed him greatly. He questioned if he wasn't special to his wife. Later, his mother, Aiko, cried in front of him. She suspected her husband of cheating on her with a woman named Run, whom she heard him mention at his apartment. Despite his support, Aiko wanted a loving husband and father for her children. Kagami tried to console her but almost kissed her, forgetting his spirit was in his son's body. That evening, Kagami rushed back to his apartment. He discovered that Run was the name of his pet cat. He never expected his wife to suspect him of cheating. Then he remembered the envelope from Satoshi, filled with photos of beautiful girls he had seen before, and he thought that his son might like one of them. The following day, Kagami's classmates were amazed by his sudden transformation. Someone who was usually not good at sports became remarkably skilled. He looked impressive playing basketball, especially when scoring. The next day, Kagami woke up with burning enthusiasm. His mind wandered with desire for his wife, but he realized this couldn't happen. Therefore, he tried to restrain himself because his spirit was still trapped inside his son's body. After learning about the girl his son liked, Kagami decided confidently to visit her class. He wanted to win her over as a special gift for his son. The girl, Minazuki, was older than Kagami and was known for her beauty, intelligence, and wealth, and she always had guards around her. As Kagami tried to introduce himself, a group of students stopped him. They wouldn't let him see Minazuki. When he asked if she had a boyfriend, another student mocked him, making him feel small. That afternoon, Kagami watched Minazuki play tennis on the field, and she was so captivating. Suddenly, a senior named Sawamura, rumored to be close to Minazuki, came up to Kagami. With a serious tone, Sawamura warned Kagami to stay away from Minazuki. But Kagami didn't listen. He felt more determined to approach Minazuki despite the warning. Sawamura got annoyed and challenged Kagami to a tennis match. Then, 5 tough-looking guys, whom Kagami had seen on the bus before, showed up. They were members of the basketball club, which was said to be disbanded because of poor performance. They told Sawamura to leave Kagami alone, as Kagami was now part of their club. They even threatened to fight Sawamura if he didn't stop bothering Kagami. Sawamura gave in to avoid trouble, and they all carried Kagami away together. Later, during dinner with his family, Kagami asked his sister Yuko who got her pregnant, but she refused to tell him. Kagami then mentioned that their father might be upset if his daughter had a baby without a father. Hearing this, both his mother and sister were surprised by Kagami's words. They had believed their late father cared more about his job than his family. Suddenly, Kagami felt stunned. He didn't expect his family to think about him like that. He had worked hard to support them, believing true happiness came from being together and caring for each other, not just money. His sad expression worried his mother, who brought him a cup of tea. At that moment, his mother once again heard strange words from her son, where Kagami said that he still looked beautiful as before. He even knew he was a model in the past. However, his mother still ignored Kagami's words. She still hadn't realized that her husband's spirit was inside her son's body. Seeing this, Kagami's father felt even sadder. He had worked hard to be a good husband, earning praise from his wife's friends and neighbors. But now he realized it was all for nothing, and it was tearing his family apart. The day after the ceremony, Kagami continued his mission to ask Minazuki out. Confidently, he introduced himself and asked her on a date. People watching were surprised and they thought Kagami would be rejected. But then, Minazuki reached out her hand, agreeing to go on a date with Kagami. This shocked everyone, and Kagami's presence suddenly became famous in school. Shortly after, Kagami saw Sachi being laughed at because of a note on her back. He hurried to help her near the swimming pool. When Kagami tried to remove the writing stuck behind Sachi, suddenly Sachi grabbed Kagami's hand, throwing him into the swimming pool. At that moment, suspicion grew in Sachi's mind. Seeing Kagami swim so well, knowing he couldn't swim and was afraid of deep water, made her question who he really was. When Kagami got home, he reluctantly confessed to Sachi and Satoshi that he wasn't actually Kagami, but his father borrowing his son's body. To his surprise, they believed him right away and were eager to hear more. Sachi didn't find it strange since Kagami had been absent from school for a few days and returned with a different attitude. Unfortunately, their conversation was cut short because Kagami had a date with Minazuki that night. However, 2 hours passed and Minazuki didn't show up or answer her phone. It seemed she was just playing with Kagami's feelings. She kept watching Kagami from the corner of her house window, and it turned out Kagami wasn't the first person to ask her out on a date. The next day, Kagami, concerned about Sachi being bullied, suggested telling the teacher, but Sachi refused, thinking it wouldn't help. She didn't want Kagami's help because she feared he might become the next target, knowing he was weaker. Despite Kagami's sad look, Sachi assured Kagami's father that his son was a good kid who wouldn't harm even insects. Meanwhile, impressed by Kagami's basketball skills, 5 club members begged him to help save their team, because if they could win a match even once, the school wouldn't disband the basketball club. After school, Kagami went to meet Minazuki as planned, but she didn't show up. From afar, Minazuki looked happy, having deceived Kagami. He was the longest one waiting among the many men she had missiled. The following day, the basketball club president made an exciting announcement to the class, especially to those who bullied Sachi. He declared that Sachi was now the manager of the basketball club, and warned anyone who dared to bully her that they would be punished. This frightened the bullies, and they promised to treat Sachi better. Apparently, what the basketball club members did was Kagami's idea as a condition for Kagami to join their basketball club. Shortly after, Kagami received a message from Minazuki to meet again. Despite past disappointments, Kagami went to the meeting spot. When it started raining, Minazuki watched from her window, disappointed when Kagami left briefly. However, Kagami only went away for a moment to buy food, and afterward he returned to the place while waiting for Minazuki in the pouring rain. Even this time he waited longer than usual, which made Minazuki's heart restless. The next day, Minazuki was surprised to find Kagami still waiting for her. She came out to him, sheltering him from the rain, feeling guilty at the thought of Kagami getting sick because of her. The next day, Kagami brought Sachi and Satoshi to his private apartment, leaving them curious why he needed another place when he already had a house. They wondered if Kagami's father had another woman. But Kagami explained it was a secret spot for adults who needed a place to stay temporarily, denying any thoughts of cheating. Their attention was caught by an angry cat named Run, whom Kagami wanted to find a new owner for. However, Run disliked people except Kagami. Sachi and Satoshi couldn't have a cat themselves. As Kagami prepared to leave for school, Minazuki surprised him by picking him up. At school, Sawamura eagerly opened the car door for Minazuki but was disappointed to find Kagami inside too. Now Kagami's popularity was increasing because he managed to establish a relationship with the most popular girl in his school. He even had to hide so that his movements wouldn't be noticed by others. That afternoon, Minazuki invited Kagami to eat together, but she unexpectedly tried to kiss him during the meal by pulling his tie. However, Kagami managed to avoid it, which left Minazuki slightly disappointed. When Kagami returned from school, he met with his sister's friend to find out who got her pregnant. Learning the man's identity, Kagami's emotions boiled over. He nearly punched the man Tatsuya, who explained he had been dumped by Yuko and didn't know she was pregnant. Tatsuya was struggling financially, managing a failing nightclub with no customers. Back at home, Kagami was frustrated. How could his sister date someone like Tatsuya? Although Yuko thought Tatsuya was a good man, she planned to raise her baby alone until Tatsuya's financial situation improved. Kagami then called Tatsuya, but Yuko still refused to accept him as the father of her baby and wouldn't let him touch her belly. The following day, Kagami's basketball friends were amazed to see him so tired. He explained he had worked at his sister's boyfriend's nightclub the previous night. Sachi was worried he might get expelled if the school found out, but Kagami assured them he only worked as a host and didn't drink. When they learned he did it to help his sister, they were impressed and offered to help him work at the club. That night, they immediately changed their style to look more mature, handing out brochures and promoting the club where they worked to adult women. Thanks to their efforts, the once quiet club slowly began to attract some customers. After that, Kagami invited Tatsuya to stay in his father's private apartment. As it turned out, Tatsuya had already heard from Yuko that his father was always busy and didn't have time with his family. On the other hand, because he was so engrossed in his work, Kagami forgot that he had a date with Minazuki until the next day when Kagami wanted to apologize. Suddenly, Minazuki slapped Kagami immediately. From then on, Minazuki hated Kagami and refused to see him again. After Kagami shared about his wife's divorce letter before the accident, Sachi decided to take him to where his wife learned pottery. Seeing his wife happy with the pottery man made Kagami jealous, so he ran away. Sachi, witnessing Kagami's shock, became afraid of marriage, feeling that even those deeply in love and with children could easily drift apart. That night, Kagami and his basketball friends came up with a plan to attract more customers to Tatsuya's nightclub. They dressed up as a female idol group called Chicken Basket and entertained the visitors with singing and dancing. After a long night of work, Kagami was surprised to find Sachi sleeping in his room. But when he saw her body, he fainted, causing Sachi to panic and try to wake him up. The next day, Kagami woke up confused by his mother's greeting, realizing he was no longer his father's soul but his own. He remembered the day of the accident when his father's soul wanted to borrow his body. On the bus, he felt scared and confused but was comforted by the kindness of his basketball friends, who even gave up their seats for elderly passengers. When Kagami arrived at school, he was warmly greeted by unfamiliar faces, which puzzled him. He used to be reserved, and only a few close friends knew him well. As he walked in confusion, his basketball friends dragged him to practice. Sachi began to notice something strange about Kagami's change in attitude and training ability, which was considered poor. During break time, Kagami was suddenly shocked by a hard slap from Minazuki. This time her anger was so great because Kagami didn't call or send a message after the previous incident. Minazuki was very disappointed and felt like she had been played by Kagami. Later, Sachi and Satoshi visited Kagami's room to test if he was truly Kagami or his father. After questioning him, they concluded he was Kagami. They then talked about Kagami's drastic changes after being possessed by his father's spirit, starting from Kagami being amazing during sports lessons, and how he quickly became famous for successfully dating the most popular girl in school. Shortly after, one of Kagami's basketball friends picked him up to work at Tatsuya's club. Kagami was surprised and feel uncomfortable when an older man there tried to seduce him. Back home, Kagami's sister joyfully shared that she was expecting a girl and appreciated Kagami's caring attitude towards her. Learning that his change came after their father's death, Kagami fell silent and left without a word. On his way, Kagami stopped at his mother's pottery place, where they greeted each other warmly. It turned out Kagami already knew about his mother's relationship with the pottery man. When Sachi arrived, she was surprised Kagami knew about their relationship. Kagami expressed feeling ordinary as a child because his father was rarely home, making his mother seem lonely. Despite Sachi explaining his father was busy working, Kagami believed happiness wasn't just about money. Sachi revealed Kagami's father had helped her stop bullying, leaving her sad for not saying goodbye to him. After a shower, Kagami remembered his father's words about parents being willing to risk their lives for their children in emergencies. That evening, Kagami noticed his mother drinking beer alone. Curious about his recent change in attitude, he asked his mother if she preferred him before or now. His mother reassured him that she loved him regardless. Suddenly, she fainted from drunkenness. Kagami helped his mother to her room, and as he looked at her, then a headache hit him, until finally, his father's spirit had returned to his son's body. Now he began to understand how he could reconnect to his son's body. The following day, Kagami entered class with newfound confidence. Sachi quickly realized his father's spirit had returned and felt immense happiness. She ran to Kagami and hugged him tightly. During basketball practice, Kagami displayed impressive skill, amazing everyone who watched him. On the school rooftop, Kagami's father cheered joyfully at being back to life in his son's body. This sparked questions for Sachi, how they could exchange souls. Then, Kagami's father answered that the exchange happened whenever they were aroused by a woman's body, but both he and his son had different types of women. His father's type was a teenage girl, while Kagami's type was an adult woman. Sachi immediately realized that it all started when she's sleeping on Kagami's bed. She was angry, even calling Kagami's father a pervert. However, he would be more careful in the future. That afternoon, Kagami's father was taken aback when his wife Aiko showed up at his apartment. She finally learned that Run was the name of his pet cat, not his mistress's. Afterward, Kagami's father and Sachi visited the pottery man close to his wife. Kagami's father already knew about his son supporting his mother's relationship with that man. Despite being in Kagami's body, he could see everything happening clearly. At the pottery man's place, they learned about Aiko, who felt lonely due to her husband's neglect. She expressed her loneliness by making pottery with the man. Aiko, a talented artist, repeatedly filed for divorce from her husband but was always rejected. Before the accident, she sent Kagami to deliver the divorce papers. Learning that the pottery man was determined to win her back left Kagami's father stunned. That night, Kagami's father and the basketball gang entertained customers at Tatsuya's club by cosplaying as women. However, the mood changed when Yuko visited Tatsuya. Seeing Tatsuya doing humiliating work for her, and their baby moved her. She gave him money to pay off his debts, which came from their father's life insurance. Though grateful, Kagami's father hoped the money would secure his children's future. Unexpectedly, Tatsuya declined the offer of money. Besides feeling uncomfortable involving Yuko's father, he also wanted to strive hard to pay off his debts on his own. This decision touched Yuko, who was ready to wait for Tatsuya indefinitely. The next day, Kagami's father gave the divorce papers to his wife, revealing that her husband had signed them before the accident. Learning how both of his children supported their mother's relationship with the pottery man saddened Kagami's father. During basketball practice, Kagami's mood seemed off. Eventually, he quit the team, claiming to be the deceased father of Kagami who borrowed his son's body for 49 days. However, his friends thought it was a joke and ignored him. That afternoon, Kagami saw Minazuki injured from falling while playing tennis. He quickly took her to the infirmary, where he asked her why she liked him. Minazuki said it was because of his brave personality and cute face. Kagami then expressed his wish to introduce someone similar to him to Minazuki, revealing that he would die soon. He attempted to kiss her, hoping his son's soul could return. However, at that closer distance, he felt strange because his soul did not leave Kagami's body, so he decided not to kiss Minazuki, which made her very angry. After that, the captain of the basketball gang suddenly took Kagami to a shaman. Apparently, he believed Kagami's words about being possessed by his father's spirit. Then the shaman immediately expelled the spirit by hitting it. After Sachi helped Kagami's father apply a warm patch to his body, he was suddenly surprised by Sachi's declaration of love, stating that she liked Kagami's father. She realized her feelings when Kagami returned to his own body, where there was a sense of sadness and regret when she was left by Kagami's father's spirit. Suddenly, Sachi took off her jacket and invited Kagami's father to be intimate, which naturally shook Kagami's father's heart. When Sachi started unbuttoning her shirt one by one, Kagami's father immediately fainted, indicating that there had been a soul exchange between Kagami's father and his son. When Kagami woke up, he realized that many things had changed, but he didn't remember them, as if he had amnesia and had been lost. Seeing how his father used his body to reconcile Yuko and Tatsuya's relationship, he didn't like it, and because of his father, He now faced anger from his mother after instructing her to take the divorce papers to court. At school, Kagami appeared pathetic, just sitting quietly during the basketball game until their team was defeated by another school. Because of this, his basketball friends immediately hated and blamed Kagami. But it was different with Captain Kenta. He understood it because he realized that the spirit inside Kagami's body was no longer his father's but Kagami's own. Suddenly, Sachi and Kagami were surprised. They didn't expect Captain Kenta to believe in such supernatural things. Apparently, the captain knew that Kagami's father used to be the basketball captain at this school and was famous throughout the city. Seeing how Sachi and Captain Kenta praised his father made Kagami feel pressured and insecure. Instead of being motivated, they made Kagami angrier, stating that he didn't want to learn from his father. News of Kagami messing up the game had spread throughout the school. Even Minazuki told Kagami to practice hard because she didn't want a boyfriend with poor skills. This made Kagami slightly emotional, even crying in front of them while throwing his towel. But strangely, Minazuki actually liked Kagami's desperate personality. The following day, Minazuki met up with Kagami and whisked him away to a mysterious location. There she was startled to find someone who looked exactly like Kagami. Initially skeptical of Kagami's claims from their earlier encounter in the infirmary, Minazuki began to believe him upon witnessing the stark contrast in personalities between the two. She then opened up about the kind of guy who captures her heart, realizing that she's drawn to handsome yet introverted individuals, much like Kagami now. This realization filled Minazuki with joy, prompting her to embrace him warmly. Meanwhile, Satoshi stumbled upon a startling revelation that he had mistakenly given Kagami a photo of Minazuki when it should have been a photo of Sachi. As it turned out, Sachi was the woman Kagami had admired all along. On the school rooftop, Kagami and Sachi shared a moment together, during which Kagami expressed his deep-seated resentment toward his father, disliking everything about him and finding his demands burdensome. Upon hearing Kagami's grievances, Sachi felt a profound sense of regret for his attitude. Despite knowing that Kagami's father was trying hard to make amends for past mistakes, she believed that deep down, Kagami respected his father. However, Sachi couldn't reconcile Kagami's disrespectful behavior towards his father, which led her to harbor feelings of animosity towards him. She even wished that it was Kagami who vanished instead of his father. After Sachi confessed her love for Kagami's father, Kagami felt deeply hurt. He began to believe that everyone preferred his father's personality over his own. Feeling overwhelmed by this, he made a drastic decision to go to the edge of the rooftop and contemplate to do the unthinkable, hoping he could vanish while his father remained in his body. Thankfully, he landed on a rabbit hutch instead of falling to his demise. Coincidentally, his father's spirit had already entered his body, minimizing his injuries to just a broken arm. Meanwhile, Sachi, consumed by guilt, apologized to Kagami's father and everyone else for her harsh words that had driven Kagami to such extremes. Back at home, Aiko and Yuko were shocked to see him injured. Kagami explained that he slipped on a banana peel, causing his arm injury. In a lighthearted moment, he asked if there was anything good about his personality, hoping for hidden talents or qualities only a mother could see. However, both his mother and sister joked that aside from his good looks, there weren't many advantages to his personality. At school, Kagami's father confided in his 3 friends about Kagami's visit to a website and his concerns for his son's well-being, and he was determined to find something that would give Kagami a reason to keep living. On the way, Minazuki approached Kagami, but she felt a bit let down because the guy in front of her wasn't Kagami's doppelganger with the shy personality she remembered. Kagami's father was also surprised, never expecting someone like Minazuki to be interested in a quiet, pessimistic guy. Despite knowing that such a guy might not be able to provide for her materially, Minazuki still liked him because she saw him like an abandoned kitten and wanted to care for him. Kagami's father, upon hearing this, was shocked but relieved that his son's love life wasn't a concern anymore. However, the next day brought another surprise when Satoshi revealed that the photo he should have given Kagami was not Minazuki's but Sachi's. It turned out that Sachi was the one Kagami had feelings for all along, not Minazuki. Satoshi returned the money Kagami's father had paid before. Feeling like all his efforts were in vain, Kagami's father realized that he could only switch souls after seeing Sachi's body because she was the girl his son liked. He didn't know what to do now that he knew Sachi preferred him over his own son. Later, one of Kagami's basketball friends faced a problem. His grandfather had bet his pension for the month in a Go game against a young man. Upon realizing that Kagami was possessed by his father's spirit, the team captain suggested Kagami step in to help his friend's grandfather in a crucial Go match. Reluctantly, Kagami agreed. As the match unfolded, Kagami's father recognized his opponent as a professional player, making victory seem unlikely. When the grandfather collapsed, Kagami's friends pleaded with the opponent to let someone else take his place. However, the opponent demanded to see Sachi's underwear as a condition. Just as Sachi began to comply, Kagami's spirit returned. Fortunately, the opponent had a change of heart and instructed Sachi to stop lifting her skirt. Realizing that there had been a soul exchange between Kagami's father and Kagami, leaving Sachi and Satoshi in a state of uncertain worry. Surprisingly, when Kagami saw the Go board, he immediately found a way out. Then, effortlessly, Kagami won the game. The spectators were amazed. On the way home, Sachi still couldn't believe that Kagami was so skilled, capable of defeating a student who supposedly often won competitions. She suggested that Kagami utilize his talent to become a professional Go player, but Kagami said it was just a hobby and he had considered taking it seriously. In that moment, Kagami asked Sachi if she truly liked his father, and she confirmed it without hesitation. Kagami started to worry about the idea of the girl he liked being in love with his own father. Watching a video recording of his father asking about his condition touched Kagami slightly. At school, Minazuki quickly realized that the quiet Kagami was the man she had feelings for. However, her heart shattered when Kagami confessed his feelings for another woman. Despite facing unreciprocated love, Minazuki vowed not to give up and promised to win Kagami's heart. Meanwhile, thanks to videos of their performances circulating on social media, Chicken Basket's popularity soared, attracting eager fans. Just as Kagami was about to take a bath, he saw Aiko wearing only a towel, prompting his father's spirit to return to his body. His mother realized something was off when Kagami suddenly hugged and kissed her. After his mother slapped him, Kagami claimed to be her husband, causing her to faint immediately. After some time, Kagami's father's presence in their son's body didn't sit well with his wife. She worried and questioned his son's whereabouts, fearing his soul might not return. Kagami's father explained that he borrowed his son's body for 49 days, occasionally swapping souls. Then he hurried to school and recounted the events at home to his 3 friends on the rooftop. When Sachi confessed her love for Kagami's father, he clarified that Kagami's affection was directed towards her, not Minazuki. Sachi was surprised. Shortly after, Kagami and his basketball friends faced trouble when the school learned about their side job cosplaying at a nightclub, with Sawamura reporting them to the vice principal. On the other hand, Yuko grew frustrated with her boyfriend's obsession with money. She warned Tatsuya against employing Kagami and his friends at his nightclub, fearing it would jeopardize their education and future. Despite her pleas, Tatsuya ignored her, disappointing and injuring Yuko. During interrogation, Kagami and his friends denied involvement. This was supported by the statement of the school principal, as it turned out that their school principal was an old man who often visited them at the nightclub, being their fan. Not long after, Minazuki found Kagami in the sports building, but realized he wasn't his twin. She wanted to know who the shy Kagami she liked, but as she leaned closer, Kagami's father's spirit swapped with his son's. His father wondered if Kagami's affection had shifted from Sachi to Minazuki. Seeing Kagami's sudden change in personality made Minazuki realize they had split personalities, not just twins. Shortly after, Sachi arrived, offering to explain everything, but Minazuki refused to listen, considering Sachi inferior. This sparked a confrontation between Sachi and Minazuki, both vying for Kagami's attention. Later, Satoshi asked Kagami for permission to take his photo, as many people were buying Kagami's photos. When Captain Kenta tried to take Satoshi's photo, he avoided it, as Satoshi enjoyed taking photos of others but didn't have any of himself because he felt unwanted, even by his own parents. Despite feeling like a burden to his mother's family, who eventually led to his parents' divorce, Satoshi dreamed of becoming a professional photographer. Meanwhile, the excitement surrounding the idol group Chicken Basket continued to grow. They were becoming even more popular with girls, but sadly, they couldn't reveal their true selves to them, despite their desire to do so. That night, Tatsuya tried to persuade them not to fear expulsion from school, promising wealth and popularity with women. 4 of them were swayed by his words, but Kagami and Captain Kenta saw it as wrong, as they had initially taken the job to help Kagami's sister repay her debts to Tatsuya. At home, Aiko was furious with Yup's sudden desire to end her relationship with Tatsuya. Yuko remarked that Tatsuya had changed, focusing only on money instead of their child. The emotional Aiko lashed out at Kagami, still believing her husband's spirit was inside him. However, after Kagami explained the soul-swapping situation, his mother realized the truth and urged her husband's soul to take over, asking him to act as a father to their daughter for once. The next day, in the sports room, only the captain and Kagami were practicing basketball, disappointed that their friends chose to cosplay as a girl idol group instead. Kagami's father then found Satoshi taking photos of Yuko with a sad expression and stopped him, explaining that Yuko was arguing with Tatsuya. Meanwhile, Yuko felt puzzled as Kagami kept referring her as his child, despite Yuko being his older sister. Kagami's father then suggested Satoshi tell Yuko about his identity, thinking she might believe it more coming from him. Shortly after, Yuko groaned in pain from contractions. Seeing how Kagami tried to comfort her, she immediately remembered her father. Eventually, Yuko believed that Kagami was truly her father, and the childbirth process went smoothly. Yuko cried tears of joy as she gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. Now she realized that it was all thanks to her father, feeling fortunate amidst the anxiety she had felt. However, her father was always by her side, encouraging her as her father still cared. Elsewhere, Satoshi prepared to capture moments between Kagami's father and his granddaughter, but Kagami's father felt uncomfortable being photographed in his son's body. He took the camera from Satoshi, revealing it was a gift from Satoshi's father, bought with hard-earned bonuses. Kagami's father explained that every parent has their own way of making their child happy, sometimes going unnoticed, including Satoshi's parents. Deciding to pretend to be Satoshi's father, Kagami's father instructed Satoshi to pose for a photo, capturing the moment. Back at home, Aiko looked delighted seeing her husband act like a father to their daughter. She had worried that Yuko wouldn't be able to bond with her child due to her resentment towards her father. But with her husband's new attitude, she felt relieved. The next day, Kagami's father was surprised by Minazuki and Sachi's sudden arrival. They argued over who would be in his son's body this time. In a video, Kagami expressed a willingness to sacrifice himself to replace his father after 49 days. However, after watching the video, his father vowed it would never happen. Shortly after, Kagami and his 2 friends woke up Tatsuya, who was sleeping soundly with his money. There, Kagami's father looked very angry after seeing Tatsuya's indifference towards Yuko, who had just given birth. Kagami revealed he was Yuko's father and advised Tatsuya to cherish and love his daughter to avoid her feeling lonely again. Meanwhile, Sachi explained the soul exchange process between Kagami and his father, which worried Minazuki. She feared Kagami's soul might disappear instead of his father's. However, Sachi doubted this, believing Kagami's father wouldn't do such a thing. Minazuki warned Kagami about his father potentially taking over his body forever, but Kagami resigned, said he didn't mind because he believed he was supposed to die instead of his father. Despite Minazuki's efforts to advise and support him, Kagami seemed unaffected. He even expelled Minazuki from his house. After that, Kagami hugged his mother to swap souls with his father, which succeeded. After receiving advice from his father, Kagami decided to disband the club and the idol group Chicken Basket to focus on his new family. Despite initial disagreement, they agreed to stop, still having many dreams to pursue. Before disbanding, Chicken Basket dedicated their final performance to their fans, and Kagami even invited Salam Mora to join, despite being secretly recorded by him. On the school rooftop, Kagami's father expressed anxiety about his soul not leaving his son's body after 49 days. He couldn't let his son die while he remained alive. Shockingly, Kagami's father decided to do the unthinkable by jumping from the rooftop, leaving his friends stunned. Unexpectedly, Sachi volunteered to join Kagami's father. She explained she was tired of being bullied at school and enduring her parents' constant arguments, including her mother's infidelity. Holding hands, they prepared to jump, while Kagami's father silently urged Kagami's soul to take over and save the woman he loved. Just as they were about to jump, Kagami's soul returned. Kagami swiftly restrained Sachi and reached out his hand. Captain Kenta then grabbed Kagami's hand, saving both of them. Grateful, Sachi thanked Kagami for saving her, and their friends encouraged him to keep living, leaving Kagami overwhelmed with emotion. The following days marked the 49th day since his father's death, the last day his soul resided in Kagami's body. Kagami decided to let his father take over on his last day, and he asked his mother about something strange his father did, and she shyly mentioned he always did it when she used the vacuum cleaner. As she took out the vacuum cleaner, a soul exchange occurred between Kagami and his father. On the school rooftop, Kagami's father gathered with Sachi and the others, feeling relieved to see Kagami finally showing enthusiasm for life. It was revealed that the incident where Sachi and Kagami's father planned to jump was staged to prevent Kagami from sinking further into guilt and despair. Kagami's father expressed gratitude to Sachi, Kenta, and Satoshi for their support, happy to have met such wonderful young people. Later, Kagami's father visited Yuko's home and was delighted to see Tatsuya had opened a store nearby, allowing him to spend more time with his family. He was also glad that Yuko and Tatsuya would care for his pet cat. As the day marked his last presence, Yuko thanked her father for everything. He advised her to always be happy and hugged her tightly, and tears streaming down their faces. On his way, Kagami accidentally saw Sawamura with his 5 siblings. Learning about Sawamura's humble background, Kagami realized his resignation and didn't mind when Kagami disclosed it to the school. At midnight, Kagami's father was surprised that his soul hadn't left yet. Aiko then explained his time of death was in the morning. The next day, Kagami's father was in the park with Sachi, who struggled to accept his departure. Sachi asked for a farewell kiss, but he couldn't fulfill her wish, disappointing her. As he waved goodbye to Sachi, his soul truly departed from this world. The following day, Kagami started as a substitute player on the basketball team. When a teammate got injured, Kagami stepped up to replace him. With motivation from his father, Kagami played with newfound confidence, impressively leading his team to victory. On the other hand, Minazuki paid a visit to Sawamura's humble home, prompted by Kagami's father. Witnessing Sawamura's difficult circumstances, living with his 5 siblings in poverty, Minazuki developed feelings for him and even asked him out on a date. Meanwhile, Kagami's mother began to open up to the pottery man, showing signs of a budding connection. In the final scenes, the school buzzed with excitement as students rushed to watch a performance by the idol group Chicken Basket, which included Kagami and his friends. They boldly revealed their true selves, cosplaying, dancing, and singing, receiving applause and cheers from their fans. Moral lesson from the story: if you ever find yourself swapping souls with your dad and accidentally kissing your mom, remember to check the vacuum cleaner for clues, and when in doubt, always join a basketball team to impress your crush.